So I think with the commoditization of electricity, I like to propose that now that it's time for Thailand, for Thai people, to rethink energy security and power sector planning. What is energy security? This is a multiple choice question. What do you think is the meaning of energy security? I guess the question is energy security for whom, right? For energy corporations, what would be the answer? A? Yes, I think so too. The more, the better. That's the meaning of energy security. But how about you? What would you choose? E? How about EGAT? What would EGAT choose? I see some EGAT people here. A? Or maybe B? Just having enough resource to meet demand, but not necessarily the more the better. I don't know. I hope. But actually, there has been a review. There's a paper by Miss Brown from Georgia Tech University. She reviewed 91 academic peer review articles looking at energy security, and she learned that the dimensions of energy security can be broken down into four groups. First is availability. Second is affordability. This concerns price of energy. Third is energy and economic efficiency, and fourth is basically environment. We see that most people think of energy security only as availability. That's so that's why you see most of the articles only discuss availability, and and then affordability is next, followed by efficiency and environmental stewardship. But now coming back to the question, what is energy security? Now, can you guess for the case of Thai government, which meaning is actually used? Which meaning is actually enshrined in the energy industry law? Can you guess? Is it D? The answer is actually E. Government policy framework, according to the Energy Industry Act 2007, mentions all these elements. For the case of availability, it's the Act Section 8 set out a framework for government policy that includes resource adequacy, minimum dependency on imports, diversification from supply disruption. On affordability category, it mentions affordable cost of service and minimum exposure to price volatility. So basically, reduce dependency on volatile fuels like oil. Also mentions efficiency, energy and economic efficiency. Is a pretty important policy objective, and also environment, minimal environmental impacts. So this is the law. So we can see how much the concept of energy security as practiced by the power sector in Thailand has strayed from the Energy Industry Act. And so in my research, what I would like to propose is that we develop a framework for bringing back, for grounding energy security back in policy framework again, using a set of indicators to evaluate PDPs. So these are some of the indicators that I have selected either to reflect all these qualities that have been cited by the Energy Industry Act. So need to make energy security and PDP accountable to the policy government framework. And these indicators, for example, reserve margin, energy imports, concentration of plants, electricity cost, exposure to oil price, energy intensity, greenhouse gas emissions, and SO2 emissions are part of the framework for evaluating PDPs. So next step is to look at making new and improved power development plans. As I demonstrated earlier, that the Thailand's PDPs didn't really serve the public. So in the past, we relied on the government to issue plans, and then we comment on them, and the comments may or may not be considered seriously. So it's time for us to make our own PDPs. But before then, let's look at the official Power Development Plan PDP 2010. This according to the plan, the generation capacity will almost double from around 30,000 megawatts to almost 70,000 megawatts, and in 20 years. The end of the planning period in the PDP is 2030. The new generation includes lots of imports, over 10,000 megawatts of imports, over 8,000 megawatts of coal plants, over 16,000 megawatts of gas plants, and 5,000 megawatts of nuclear. So the list is pretty impressive. And to justify all those new projects, the government used forecasts that are represented in red lines. This is a graph of annual increase of peak demand of peak demand in Thailand. The blue lines, the blue bars represent the actual increase per year in the past up to year 2011. You can see that there have been, in the past there were a lot of ups and then followed by some downs. This is the financial crisis on 1997, and then we saw, increasingly, there are a lot more uncertainties in the political situation. Political conflicts led to slowed economic growth, leading to lower than expected demand growth, and also flooding that just happened were totally unexpected. But however, going forward, the government assumed that the increase in demand would be, as shown in the red bars. As you can see, the average increase projected by the PDP is very high, average about 1,500 megawatts per year, an increase of 1,500 megawatts per year compared to past averages, which, hover around 800 megawatts per year. So you can see there's almost a doubling of projected need for electricity used in the PDP, which is really high. So in the case of the new and improved power development plan, which we call PDP 2012, we use we assume that going forward, the future will be more or less like in the past. So we think that it may go up and down, but average will probably continue along this green line, because we never know what extreme events we may see again.
You mean the one that you propose?
Yes.
Right?
So
Okay,
PDP 2012. I will go to the next slide to define what I mean by those by the term. But but going forward, you never know. With the uncertain global economic situation and extreme weather events, we may see disruptions again. So it's safe. I think it's safe to say that more realistic demand would be along the line of this green dotted line. So just to clarify the term, I came up with two scenarios. One is called PDP 2012. This is actually the first option. We used more realistic demand forecast. Another scenario is PDP 2010 version 2. This is actually basically a revision of PDP 2010 using the government's likely optimistic power demand forecast, but we made several changes. So the changes that we made follow this methodology. First of all, we maintain 15% minimum reserve margin. The goal is to make sure that we have enough electricity to meet growing demand. Actually, coming back to this a little bit. So we use the green line. That doesn't mean electricity does not increase. It does increase every year, but not as high as the government projected. So it still increases, but at a more reasonable level. So demand is still increasing, and we are trying to come up with a better way to meet the growing demand. First of all, we prioritize investment in energy efficiency and demand-side management as a resource option. In the past, the Thai PDP does not consider energy investment, does not consider investment in energy efficiency as a resource option at all. So this is, we think that this should be changed. Another step is to consider life extension of power plants. In doing the PDP, EGAT only considers building new plants. It does not consider trying to better utilize the existing assets, for example, by doing some upgrades and refurbishment in order to extend the life of old power plants. We, in this case, consider this as a way to delay retirement and delay new investment in power plants. Another approach that we took is that when even after doing DSM, doing life extension, we still need additional capacity. In that case, we would prioritize high efficiency form of power generation technology called cogeneration over inefficient centralized generation. I will talk more about cogeneration to explain what it is. But now, the last thing that we did was that new generation that's not already committed or under construction, in our case, would be considered removable from the PDP if they are not needed to maintain 15% reserve margin. Now let's go back to the each assumption in detail. First, the inclusion of more energy efficiency and demand side management. The blue bars. Do you see the blue? You can barely see the blue. Black. Okay, black. Those are the levels of energy efficiency actually included in the PDP. You can see. In the official PDP by the government. However, after the PDP was approved, the government issued another plan called 20-year Energy Efficiency Plan, and the red bars represent the savings called for in the energy efficiency plan. So what we did was that we made sure that the new PDP, called PDP 2012, actually correspond to the newer approved energy efficiency plan. So that's the red bar. I want to show you that why we prioritize energy efficiency. This is an analysis done for the Pacific Northwest in the U.S. The graph, the y-axis represents the price of different resource options, including energy efficiency. Energy efficiency are represented represented with the blue, the green triangles. You can see energy efficiency. Different investment in these measures are considered the cheapest option to meet growing demand. Yet in Thailand, in the past, these are not considered as supply options. So we changed that. And this is again, to show you, in the case of the Pacific Northwest, after having invested in energy efficiency for over 30 years, they continue to find new ways to have more energy efficiency savings, and that's what we are aiming for. For cogeneration is a much more efficient way to generate electricity. For conventional power plants that have been, like coal plants that the government included in the PDP, most of the energy is actually wasted. You put in 100% of energy, and out comes 60 to 70% of wasted energy through the smokestack. But if you were to use combined heat and power or cogeneration, because of the smaller scale and the location next to industrial applications like heat and steam or cooling, utilization of energy is a lot more, and therefore only 10% of energy is wasted through the smokestack. So this is the type of investment that we prioritized. The PDP already included a lot actually of cogeneration, but not quite enough. And we reviewed the existing potential, and we learned that we could add at least 4,800 megawatts more, and this is a conservative estimate. And on plant life extension, we didn't extend the life of all plants. Some plants, for example, Memo, already commissioned at at the age of 40 years, so we did not extend the life of those plants. But some that are retired by the end of 25 years, we extend some of them to 30 years. The same with IPP plants. And for the case of renewable energy, we assume the same amount as planned in the PDP 2010. Because partly we believe that PDP did an acceptable job of including more renewable energy in the plan, and also because the energy some renewable energy projects still have impacts and face community opposition. So we didn't want to advocate a lot more in renewable energy until this loophole, energy impact assessment loophole in the Thai law is addressed. So the results of the analysis is that we have very different PDPs. So I would like you to turn your attention to in the case of PDP 2012. We found that this approach, we were able to maintain energy security without having to build new greenfield centralized gas power plants. We don't have to build any more new coal power plants. We don't have to do any more imports from neighboring countries beyond the projects that have already started construction, and we don't need any new nuclear power plants, and we still were able to maintain security of the energy system. This shows the different plans. The first one is the PDP 2012 that we like to put forward. This one is the revision of PDP 2010 based on the really high demand forecast that was adopted by the government. And this is the last one on the right is the official PDP 2010. Blue, the turquoise blue, is energy efficiency. You can see none in fact in the case of PDP 2010, and the red on top is the nuclear. We start from the bottom is coal, gas, domestic hydro, cogeneration. No, sorry, imported hydro, cogeneration. Green is renewable, and then this is fuel oil, others, and then nuclear. So you can see we have a much more moderate expansion of the power system under the PDP 2012. Now let's come back to the indicators that I mentioned earlier. Trying to hold PDP accountable to the policy objectives enshrined in the Energy Industry Act. Let's look at some of the indicators. First one is dependency on electricity and fuel imports. The reference case is is what we've got currently in year 2010. If we were to follow the plan PDP 2010 in year 2030, so these three bars represent the level of dependency on imports in year 2030, about 20 years from now. You can see that there's a drastic increase in the amount of electricity that are from foreign sources. So in the future, uranium may come from Kazakhstan or Australia. Power imports will come from Laos, Burma. Gas will come from Burma or the Middle East or Indonesia, and coal will be from Indonesia or Australia. So these are the dependency on imports that we see. So we see a worsening trend. In terms of cost of service, despite the avoidance of cheap options like coal or nuclear, the government claim that these options are cheap. You can still see a decrease in cost of service. Notice that I use the indicator as baht per month, but not baht per kilowatt hour. Why is that? Because when you invest in an energy efficiency, even though the cost of electricity may be higher, but because you get the same level of service without the same amount of kilowatt hours, the cost of the bill that you actually pay is actually lower. So you can see that compared to 2010, the PDP would see an increase in cost of service of 3.5%, while the PDP, the revised PDP, would see a decrease of 13%. In the case of PDP 2012, you see a slight increase of 1.3%, but still better. In terms of exposure to price volatility risk, we see an improvement across the board. All three scenarios will lead to less exposure to price volatility, partly because of the diversification of technology. For the case of energy intensity, energy intensity is a measure of energy efficiency and economic efficiency. We see a worsening trend. So increased energy intensity, a worsening trend for the case of PDP 2010, while the other two scenarios will, by design, will see improved energy intensity. Emissions of air pollutants. So if the graph is really high, it means that we see more emissions from the plan. So as you can see, the blue bars represent the change in the case of the official PDP 2010. You see a much worse trend for all pollutants across the board, from greenhouse gas to NOx, SOx, particulates, and mercury. Whereas, the only plan that will see an improved trend would be in the case of PDP 2012. So those are some of the indicators that I highlighted, but putting them all together, these are the different indicators that I pointed earlier. Let's look at the PDP 2010 first. So the bar, when the bars go up, it means a worsening trend of energy security. But if the bars go in the negative area, it means improving trend. For the case of PDP 2010, you see worsening trend for environmental performance and import dependency, and also worsening trend for energy intensity, basically energy efficiency and cost of service, while improve in terms of the exposure to price risk and concentration of plant disruption. But for the case of improved PDP 2010, you see an improvement of these two categories: efficiency, cost of service, exposure to price volatility, and concentration. For the case of PDP 2012, you see the most improvement. So in terms of environmental quality, you see significant improvement compared to PDP, the official PDP. Also less interdependency on imports, as well as cost of service, energy intensity, and other indicators. So to conclude, we saw a worrying trend of commoditizing electricity, which led to the concept of energy security and PDP process being distorted to generate profits for a few at the expense of the affected communities, consumers, environment, and economy. So we need a better framework to hold the PDP process and the concept of energy security accountable to the Energy Industry Act and accountable to the public. And we also need to a new framework. We also need to reform the PDP process so that cheaper and cleaner options can be prioritized to meet growing demand. And so we have put forward the new PDP 2012 ahead of the government's official PDP 2012 to better achieve energy security without the need for any new greenfield coal, gas, dam, and nuclear power plants. Thank you.